Right now at noon, a peak in coronavirus cases in Georgia just under 2 weeks away. What the Emory doctor tracking the models has to say about how our hospitals are coping and protecting essential workers on the front lines of the coronavirus, how MARTA is adding new measures to protect its employees, and what life is like right now for Georgia's most vulnerable citizens. We take a look inside one local senior living community.
Live from the 11 Alive studios, our special coronavirus coverage, Facts Not Fear, starts now.
Good afternoon, I'm Christy Diaz. Thanks for joining us for Facts Not Fear at noon. We continue to track the spread of COVID-19 in Georgia, starting with the latest numbers just released moments ago. According to the State Department of Public Health, there are now 416 deaths, 11,483 confirmed cases. The highest number still in Fulton County at more than 1,300, and 2,351 people are hospitalized. Now, according to infectious disease experts, our projected peak here in Georgia is just under 2 weeks away. This morning, Dr. Carlos Del Rio with Emory, who has been tracking all of the models, gave an update. Nick Sturdivant has the latest from that briefing.
A briefing wrapped up with Dr. Carlos Del Rio with Emory just a little over an hour ago, and as the death toll and as the number of cases continue to rise, Dr. Del Rio did have some encouraging news. He said because of social distancing, the models are looking better. The model that he's been tracking from the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation shows in Georgia that the peak estimated activity at hospitals and for deaths to be the week of April 20th. Dr. Del Rio said unlike hospitals in New York, admissions are slowing along with ICU admissions. Hospitals are becoming less overwhelmed.
If you overwhelm hospitals, your mortality is going to go up. So I'd rather have a steady state of patients coming that we can take care of and having our ICUs and your hospitals overwhelmed and then mortality going up. But as I said, if we scale up testing and we're able to identify people quickly and we're able to then isolate individuals, we will be able to stop the outbreaks.
And Dr. Del Rio says we'll have better predictions after the 20th. And coming up at 5, hear why even after the shelter in place is lifted, he'll be taking certain precautions.
The first day of drive-through coronavirus testing in Douglasville is now complete. Mara Sirianni takes us to the site at Hunter Memorial Park to explain how the first day went.
From 9 to 10 o'clock this morning, those with COVID-19 symptoms were able to come to Hunter Memorial Park for testing. Cobb and Douglas public health officials closing the park, and as the sign says, testing was by appointment only. For privacy reasons, officials could not immediately disclose how many patients were tested, but they do confirm the testing wrapped up early. Only those Douglas and Cobb County residents with symptoms and a pre-approval number are eligible. Adults over the age of 60, healthcare workers, caregivers, first responders, and those with chronic medical conditions take priority. If you'd like a test, call your healthcare provider, a federally qualified healthcare center, or the Cobb and Douglas Public Health Call Center. Testing at this site resumes Monday at 9 a.m.
Starting today, more protections are being added for MARTA employees. The transit system will distribute face masks to all essential workers in accordance with the latest CDC guidelines. MARTA also adding an extra 80 hours of emergency paid sick leave, which can be used if workers get COVID-19 or if they have to self-quarantine to take care of a family member. Just last week, MARTA received nearly $371 million in federal funds as part of a $25 billion grant to help public transportation nationwide. Changes for Gwinnett and Cobb County public school students. The districts are now moving to a 4-day week. Starting Monday, students will complete their work digitally Monday through Thursday. Both districts will then use Friday as a flexible day with no new assignments given. This will continue for the rest of the year. Gwinnett County also working to create virtual graduations in May with in-person ceremonies to be held in July if conditions allow. It is a precious resource, very hard to find right now. Hand sanitizer. Producers say there just aren't enough raw ingredients out there right now to make it. The small amount that is being made right now is going straight to medical professionals and first responders. According to USA Today, you can expect supplies to return to normal in a few months. As many of you know, our 11 Alive colleague, investigator Andy Perotti, has recovered after he battled COVID-19. Now, he shared his experience since testing positive last month, and now he's answering your questions about what it was like in a Reddit forum right now. Just go to the site listed on your screen, reddit.com/r/IMA, and scroll down to Andy's post. That lasts through the hour. At least 47 long-term care facilities have dealt with the COVID-19 outbreak here in Georgia. The people working inside these communities are the definition of essential workers. So today, using pictures and video chat, I'm taking you inside a local assisted living and memory care community to show you what it's been like for them these past few weeks.
It's a tough job on a normal day, but a pandemic only makes it harder.
Everyone is getting restless. The residents want to get out, and families want to come in.
More than 80 people live at Orchard at Brookhaven. That number split between assisted living and memory care.
Every day we take their temperatures and check on them.
This is one of the communities that dealt with an outbreak of COVID-19.
It was scary because it happened early on.
Luckily, that resident recovered at the hospital and after testing negative twice is back in her apartment with no outbreaks since. And the community has been strict to keep it that way. Here's one of the supervisors, Teresa Bowens.
There were some moments where I was like, I don't know what's going on, but we just kind of keep going with it. And I don't want to show fear, because I want the residents to know that everything's going to be okay.
At one point, the community locked down completely. The staff slept on site.
We slept over, you brought clothing for a couple of days, and we just slept in shifts.
Last week, the National Guard came in at night to help clean.
Most of them were asleep, and they cleaned all the common areas.
When caring for those living with dementia, there are also other challenges, like meal times. Not everyone can safely eat in their own apartment in isolation. So now there's blue painter's tape on the floor to help staff keep people at least 6 feet apart. And now the Community Relations Director, Ginger King, is sewing fabric masks and testing one out with a clear insert to help with communication.
It's hard for them to hear and understand what we're saying because they count on looking at our face and our mouth and our expressions.
And since they can't bring in outside vendors for activities and music, they've started their own band called the Rotten Apples. And since families can't visit, they're showing extra love to the people inside.
It's like all of us have 1,000 grandparents now that we're loving on. We do the best we can, and we stay smiling and we stay upbeat for them because we're not going to let this beat us.
One of the silver linings, Teresa says, is their relationships with the residents have actually gotten better because of all the extra time they're spending together. And of course, the story is personal to me because my dad lives in a long-term care community. So if you are someone working in a community, thank you. And if you're a family going through this too, know I'm in it with you. The United States Postal Service is trying to ease some of the anxiety for those waiting on their stimulus checks with a free tracking service. It's called Informed Delivery, and it lets users set up an online account to get an alert about incoming mail. If it's from the IRS, the Treasury, or federal government, that should be your first clue your stimulus check is landing in your mailbox. To help taxpayers keep track of the payments and prevent fraud, the IRS says it will be sending letters to stimulus recipients whether they receive paper checks or have direct deposit. More car insurance companies are handing out money to their customers. People with Progressive will be credited 20% of their April and May insurance premiums. Geico and Travelers Insurance are offering credits to people who stay home. And earlier this week, Allstate announced $600 million in refunds to its customers. From insurance refunds to that stimulus check, we know you have more questions. Coming up, financial expert Andrew Poulos is answering them. Text us at this number on your screen, 404-885-7600. Remember, text, don't call. Welcome back. Here's another look at the latest numbers from Georgia's Department of Health, updated just about 10 minutes ago. There are now 416 deaths, 11,483 confirmed cases, and still the highest number in Fulton County at more than 1,300, and 2,351 people are hospitalized. Now, we know you have a lot of questions about the information you're seeing and hearing, especially when it comes to your money. Financial expert Andrew Poulos is here to answer them all, so let us know if you have a question by texting us at 404-885-7600. Now let's bring in Andrew. Andrew, first question for you today. Norm wants to know, will I get relief on my minimum required distribution from my IRA?
Yes, a great question that Norm has, and we've had that question come up on our end with clients. There is relief in the stimulus bill for required minimum distributions. They're going to do away with that for the time being, so Norm will not have to do the required minimum distributions this year.
Edie texted this question. She said, I heard the stimulus check is an advance on next year's income tax. I'm on disability, and that's more than I got back in taxes. Will it roll over to the next year?
All right, so there's a lot of information going around, some factual, other not so factual with this stimulus check. It's a new credit that the government has created, and the way it's going to work is you're getting an advance on it right now. If you don't qualify due to your 18 or 19 income being too high, and you file your 2020 tax return next year, and you're below the threshold, then you will get the same stimulus on your return next year, but it does not have to be repaid back. So it will not carry over to 2021 or anything of that nature.
And you do not have to pay taxes on it. That is another question we get all the time. Okay, so
Correct, yeah.
This next viewer texted us, if a faith-based organization has tax liens against them, will they still qualify for the payroll protection loan through the SBA?
They should due to the circumstances. We've looked at the application for the payroll protection program, paycheck protection program, and there's nothing on there that asks about liens. There's more about background history for the owners, if there's any crimes and such things as that, but nothing that would indicate to us right now that they're going to prohibit anyone with a tax lien from being able to qualify for the stimulus funds.
Ben says, my wife and I have filed our taxes jointly and we do meet the stimulus check qualifications. However, I'm in bankruptcy. Can the bankruptcy court take our stimulus check?
Under normal circumstances, I would tell Ben yes. Under these circumstances, they've told bankruptcy trustees to not take the money, the stimulus check from folks that are in current active bankruptcies. The money should come to Ben. If the bankruptcy trustee requests it, then he can work on that, but I don't think that's going to happen right now from what we've have heard so far.
All right, and Stacy asks this. She says, since this check is a credit from our 2020 taxes, will taxes still be withdrawn during the 2020 tax year?
Okay, try to make sense of that question. Basically, the stimulus check is not going to be taxable. Taxes aren't going to be withdrawn from it. So when the IRS or the Treasury Department, however you want to look at it, sends you the check or directs deposit it into your bank account that they have on file, they're not going to withhold taxes on that.
And not on that money, but I mean, obviously you have to pay regular taxes coming up in the next year.
Of course, yeah. Everything is taxable in life at some point.
Okay. Another viewer wants to know this. So do you recommend to stop paying your mortgage for the 90 days the banks are offering?
Look, what I recommend, if you're truly in a financial bind, you need to work with the bank and ask for deferment, right? But if you're well off for the time being, I would continue paying bills. You know, you need to probably cut back on things that you don't need, such as what we would normally consider wasteful spending, because obviously times are difficult. But I don't encourage folks just to stop paying all their bills for the next 60, 90 days just because it's out there that you can do it, right? So you need to look at it. If it's something that's going to put you in just a very difficult situation, you're already in one, then yes, you need to work with your lender to see what they can do to help you out.
Okay, Stephen asked this question. Will self-employed businesses qualify for the Paycheck Protection Program if they themselves are the only employee?
Yes, a great question by Stephen. If you are the only employee and you are on the books for your business receiving a paycheck, then you can use that. That's payroll. That's what's going to qualify you to be able to get the Paycheck Protection Program loan. So yes, but if you're an employee and haven't been paying yourself as a paycheck and you've just been taking distributions or draws, that's a total different matter, and that probably is not going to qualify you for it.
Okay, Jenny has this question. She wrote in, I was let go from a company on December 13th after 3 weeks of employment. I assumed I did not qualify for unemployment compensation. In early March, I was interviewing with 3 companies, but of course now all are on a hiring freeze. I've been working 8 hours a day trying to find a new position. My savings is depleted, so I had to go into my 401k. What options do I have right now with getting financial support?
So the great question. A lot of people facing the same challenges. What I would tell folks is look at a couple of resources. Obviously, the 401k, as Jenny mentioned, any savings that might exist out there that you might have a little bit of money from. Then if you have any universal whole life insurance policies, look at those. Those build up cash value. You can borrow against those for an emergency situation like this. If you have any sort of equity in your home, you might be able to get a quick line of credit. You can also get signature loans. A lot of the credit unions will provide signature loans if you have great credit as well, which are very quick and very easy to get. Some credit unions will give up to $25,000 signature loans. So look at resources that you've never really have considered. And as much as I hate telling folks to look at debt, that's really where we're at right now, unfortunately, for a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people trying to make that dollar spread farther right now. Yeah. Thank you so much, Andrew. Viewers, don't go anywhere. Just ahead, Andrew will be back. Financial questions, so keep sending them in. We're seeing your texts. Use that number, 404-885-7600. And remember, text that number, don't call, but please do include your name. And before we go to break, we're always looking to see the light in these difficult times. Well, in this case, if you missed it last night, Atlanta saw the blue light. It's all to give thanks to healthcare professionals and first responders amid the coronavirus pandemic. From the Bends to Truist Park, the Skyview Ferris wheel, and buildings in Midtown and downtown, the A was seeing blue. We here at 11 Alive want to say thank you to every frontline worker from the bottom of our hearts. We are back now answering your questions concerning the coronavirus. Text us with what you want to know, 404-885-7600. Remember, text, do not call, but please do include your name. So we'd like to welcome back Andrew Poulos now. He's a financial expert helping us answer all your money questions. Andrew, thanks for coming back.
Hey, always good to be here, Christy.
All right, we want to start with this question from Nan. She says, my family member is being required to work because construction is exempt from the shelter-in-place order. He has a chronic illness that, per the CDC guidelines, puts him at high risk. He has asked to be laid off so that he may collect unemployment under the CARES Act. However, his employer refused, claiming this would be unemployment fraud. Is this true?
This is a very interesting situation, and here's what I would say to that. Obviously, I'm not an employment attorney, so I'm not going to go out on the limb on that side of it. But if you are concerned and you're high risk, employers, of course, are all concerned that fraud is going to be rampant as far as employees claiming that they're high risk when they're not. So I don't think that it's up to the employer really to put you on unemployment if they don't have enough work. What I would look at more so is getting a letter from your doctor that you're high risk perhaps and requesting to be put out on sick leave. Again, this gets into a tricky situation that probably the Department of Labor would be able to best answer, but just laying someone off because they don't want to work, they feel they're high risk, is a situation that is going to possibly be scrutinized.
Yeah, that could get tricky. Okay, so this comes in from Lottie, who writes, I'm a stay-at-home mom, married but legally separated. My children are foster children, so I get relevant care substance for them since I'm the caregiver. Am I entitled to a stimulus check?
The stimulus check comes back to filing your taxes, either 18's return or 19 if you haven't filed 18, and your adjusted gross income. So it really boils down to, has nothing to do with an ex-spouse, a legally separated spouse. It all boils down to, have you filed your return, and do you qualify based on the adjusted gross income parameters that the stimulus, the CARES Act has put in the legislation, right? So that's what it's going to boil down to. So if she has filed her return, she's under the limit, she should qualify for the stimulus check of $1,200 plus $500 per child on a return under age 16.
Okay. Jan says, my employer failed to tell me they were filing unemployment for me, so I filed myself. My coworker who didn't file themselves has received the benefits, but I have not. What, if anything, should I do?
Okay, so this is a two-part question in essence for me. I'll answer the question, but I need to make a point out here, which I've said before, Christy, every time we've been on discussing unemployment. There's a requirement by the Department of Labor that employers are the ones who file. First and foremost, it's really geared so they can expedite claims versus employees filing on their own. The minute you file on their own, there has to be a verification process, which slows down the process immensely. So with that said, if anyone's watching, that is on unemployment or is looking to file unemployment, the employer should do it for you on your behalf. At this point in time, she's going to have to wait for the Labor Department to sort it out. They're going to have two claims. They're going to process probably the one from the employer and not hers. Unfortunately, it is going to slow down that process for her.
All right, patience the only option there. Shay wants to know, is the unemployment an additional $600 a week on top of the $350 you would normally receive for unemployment?
Correct. The $600 a week is going to start next week, and it's going to be paid to those already receiving state unemployment benefits. So it's going to be in addition to. So if you're receiving, for example, $365, you're going to be getting another $600. So you'll start getting $965 on a weekly basis. It's the federal unemployment coming in from USDOL under the CARES Act.
All right, I'm sure she's happy to hear that answer.
I'm sure.
Tara says, I was part-time retail worker who worked 20 to 30 hours a week last year and only 8 hours a week this year. Would I qualify for unemployment during the pandemic?
So the way the unemployment laws are designed right now is that if you are laid off, furloughed in full, or your hours have dropped to 50% or less, then the employer needs to put you on unemployment. So you can still be working the limited hours, but you're going to get a unemployment check as well to make up the gap for the hours that you're losing.
All right, we could probably do an entire hour just answering people's questions, but thank you so much for being here. Good information, Andrew.
Always good to be here.
All right, as we go to break, we want to share a salute to some of our healthcare heroes. No group more deserving of a cheering section when they start the workday. This is what Wellstar Health is doing to encourage their team members caring for COVID-19 patients day in and day out. When they show up for work, they walk by signs, applause, and appreciation, and they deserve every single bit of it. We'll be right back. It is something we love seeing amid the pandemic, people going out of their way to help the heroes. 2 Georgia women are showing their gratitude to local healthcare workers through red ribbons. You may have seen them on mailboxes in Griffin. The women make and sell the ribbons to buy meals for healthcare workers in local hospitals.
They were so thankful, and they kept saying that. They were exhausted, but they have something inside of them that keeps going. You know, they're never going to give up.
And now other neighborhoods are putting in their orders for the red bows. If you've seen others helping in your community, let us know. Send it in using that hashtag #SendTheLoveATL. And live from the living room, it is Saturday night. Well, it's Friday, but it's almost Saturday. Saturday Night Live is going back to work this weekend. NBC announced the cast will be doing things a little differently. You'll see new content produced remotely as the team practices social distancing. There will also be a new edition of Weekend Update. You can watch SNL right here on 11 Alive Saturday night at 11:30. And you can find the very latest information on the coronavirus and its impact here in Georgia at 11alive.com and on our 11 Alive app. We've also posted a link to track your stimulus check, as well as updates on who's hiring locally. Lots of good information. All right, thanks for watching Facts Not Fear at noon. We'll see you here for 11 Alive News at 5. I'm Christy Diaz. Stay safe.